What's up guys, my name is Justin. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are back with my 2018 Chevrolet Camaro 1 LT with the RS package and the V6 engine pumping out 335 horsepower, which is quite nice. I am back today, just going to do a little bit of a walk around to my car and talk about the top 5 likes and dislikes of this car. Now that I've had it for about a year and 4 months, I realized I have not done a video with my car since about 3 weeks after I got it. That kind of general overview video I did back about July of last year. So we are back. I am trying a completely different camera setup with a mounted head cam here, which we'll see how it works. We'll see how the audio is. So if the audio is rough quality, I apologize for that. We'll get to work on that. But for now, we're just going to go through kind of what the list is. I have it on my phone because I'll never remember. I guess we'll start with the 5 dislikes and then we'll go to the 5 likes and do it that way. First thing that I want to talk about, one of the most obvious parts of this car is the roof line. Everyone talks about how low this car is to the ground, not Corvette low or anything, but it is a very low car, and the way that it's designed is very distinct to get the look that they were going with the retro feel, and obviously have the sporty back, and the antenna for the radio messes that up just ever so slightly, but that's the number one thing that people look at from the outside when they walk up to the car. The second one we'll get out of the way right now that everybody talks about with the Camaro package is the visibility. We talk about these tiny quarter windows here and the kind of sloping back that we just talked about. This B-pillar is gigantic. When you're sitting in the car, which we'll do in a second, I will show you the B-pillar, and it's abysmal. Out the right side especially, it's bad, but at the same time, I've experienced, if you know how to set up your mirrors properly, it's not that big of an issue. I mean, does it hinder your ability to just look and instantly know where everything is? Yes. Can you get around it? Excuse me. Can you get around it with proper mirror setting up and, you know, turning your head and using your eyes? Absolutely. It is not by any means a deal breaker or anything. Let's open the trunk real quick and I'll talk about the next part. Third dislike for this, I have a sweatshirt and a blanket and a chair in there currently, but that's still trunk space. This car is notable for having basically no real trunk space. It's not that the trunk is that small. If you look in here, the trunk is actually relatively deep and wide. The battery, of course, goes here. It's the opening to accommodate the taillights. Of course, in the United States, you can't have any movable taillight fixtures. It has to be fixed to the body in the trunk. The rest of it moves independently. So that kind of limits what they were able to do with this design. The 5th gen has the same issue. And the problem with that is that even though the trunk is a decent size, you can't get anything in it. So I remember a couple months ago now, I had a work golf outing, and I tried to put my sticks in the back, and my sticks, even though the trunk is plenty deep, and again, it's big enough for sticks, I could not fit my sticks in the hole all the way, and my driver at least. I had to take my driver out, and then they did fit. But you cannot just fit a normal bag of golf clubs in this car. So that, definitely a con when you're trying to transport anything. If you have to move anything, if you work in construction or whatever, this is not the car for you by any means. Definitely going to lack storage space in this car. The other thing that I want to talk about, and we'll talk about the poor back seat when we get in here. Poor back seat. You definitely cannot put anybody back here that you want that, you know, is blessed with legs. Unfortunately, it's just not a very usable back seat. The room behind myself is basically none. The left side, or the right side, excuse me, is a little bit further up than that. But definitely not something that you want to be counting on transporting people in. We'll talk about the blind spots. You see right there, the B-pillar on the passenger side does take out a massive blind spot, but if you can set that mirror correctly, which I have from this point of view, it's not that bad. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. Definitely not something that's an automatic deal breaker if you know what you're looking for, know what you're getting into when you start. The final con that I want to talk about, or dislike, and please keep in mind that when I say dislike, I love my car. I absolutely adore my car. Do I wish I had an SS1LE or a ZL1? Absolutely, everybody in the world does. But for what I have and what it is a fabulous, fabulous car, and I love it very much. The final thing that I want to talk about is a major con or dislike is winter driving. I do drive this year-round, maybe brave, maybe stupid, but I do drive it year-round. Last winter was one of those years where we didn't get too many days where I would have been stuck with the snow. Thankfully, I borrowed another vehicle for, I think, the 2 days that we had really, really big snow drifts. So, I mean, basically 363 days a year I can drive this car, at least over the past year and some change. So, Winter driving with a car this low, honestly, the grip and the tire traction is not the biggest issue. I have found that, especially when it's icy out, the traction is actually pretty good. There is a snow and ice mode on this car that does a pretty good job. It launches you in second gear, third gear, very low RPM shifts. It keeps traction very, very nicely. However, the ground clearance is a really big issue. I mean, if we look down at the ground, this car is exceptionally low to the ground. Again, not Corvette levels low to the ground, but this is supposed to be a slightly more daily usable car than a Corvette in most circumstances. And it just struggles. It has very poor ground clearance, and it really takes a dedicated driver that knows what they're doing to be able to navigate winter roads, especially these Wisconsin roads, gracefully, for lack of a better word. So those are my 5 kind of dislikes and cons. Again, by no means are they deal breakers. I truly love my car. It is fabulous in just about every single way. But those are things that you have to be aware of going into it, that you have to know. So now on to the likes or the pros of this car. There are many, but I'm going to highlight the 5 that have been my favorite. The first being kind of generally the performance of this car. Those of you that know me know I had a Prius before this, just because when you're in college you take what you can get and you can't argue with great gas mileage. But the performance of this car, I know that it's just the V6 and it just has 335 horsepower, but I would honestly classify anything faster than this as being fast. And this car is peppy. Do not get me wrong. It is more than sufficient for daily driving, more than sufficient for, you know, corner carving and on-ramps and all the fun things you can do in a car legally. This car is more than sufficient of that. 335 horsepower is plenty. I think it has 275 or 290 pound-feet of torque. One of those is the i4 level and one of those is this car's number. But regardless, this car is more than peppy enough and more than fast enough to have fun. The brakes are fantastic. Are they track worthy? No. We'll be addressing that later in the upcoming months. But it is a fabulous car. It is definitely more than fast enough to, if someone were to go against you on the road, 99% of vehicles are going to get walked by this car. Speaking of things that are cool on the road, the color and attention that this car gets is honestly kind of shocking to me. When I was shopping for this car a year and a half ago, obviously I wasn't shopping for this car in particular. I didn't have a color in mind. Those of you that know me know that I am not picky about the color of my cars. It is a minor detail. I mean, there are cars that I do not want in certain colors. Everybody raves about like Millennium Yellow on GM products, especially the old C5 Corvette. That's not for me. I've never been a guy that loved yellow cars. I don't know why. It just has not been something that I want. So for whatever reason, I have not gone for Millennium Yellow. But this car, this is Hyper Blue, which they now don't have Hyper Blue anymore. I think it's Elkhart Lake Blue, which is kind of funny. You know, obviously being in Wisconsin near Road America, Elkhart Lake Blue. But Hyper Blue, a color that you can no longer get on a GM product, is a wonderful color in person. And again, when I was shopping, I was accepting, you know, kind of the nice dark red they had at the time, silver, white, black, maybe the blue, but I wasn't preferable to any of them. It was just a color selection for me. But after seeing this car online, I said, you know, it's a color that I kind of like, and I hope it's as good in person as everybody says it is. And I did a lot of research to see if I would fall in love with this car, if it's shiny or not. It is a little bit wet today, so that's why it doesn't look that good. It's been extremely damp here the last several days. So, but regardless, this car is spectacular. When I went to pick it up, obviously it was all shiny nice, and I try to take pretty good care of it cosmetically. Again, it's a little bit dirty right now, or a lot of it dirty if we look at the front. With a coworker yesterday, I was looking at my tow hook attachment, which goes right here. I'm kind of off track at this point. The tow hook goes right in there, and the front is just filthy, and I could not believe how dirty the front of the car was. So I tried to get it washed yesterday, and the weather and the car wash was not cooperating, so that didn't happen. But yeah, it's just a fabulous color. It shines even when, like today, it's not sunny by any means, and it just is a beautiful color. The light reflects off it so well. It definitely turns heads, which I don't really realize because I'm the driver. But like my family and other people that I've had in the car, girlfriends, whatever, have said, yeah, this car, it turns heads. Like, people just look at it, and even if they're like, oh, it's just a V6 Camaro, if they know what it is, the color is spectacular. So it is definitely something that you have to see in person to fully appreciate. Some of the features of this car that I really love, interior-wise, is the fact this car has not just Android Auto, which is great, but this little driver information screen right here, controlled by these buttons, is fabulous. Gives you all sorts of information. There are like 12 configurable screens. You can get like transmission fluid temperature, oil temperature, all these other fluid temperatures, which are fabulous. And it's just an awesome piece of equipment that allows you to, oh, hello person, are you trying to come through here? Yeah, whatever. Go around me, go park somewhere else. There's a whole parking lot that's empty. So anyways, this little screen here displays all sorts of information that's really cool. It's definitely a useful feature that I love in this car. It has a compass. That's one of my favorite things. My Prius did not have a compass. I can't really believe it. That's the one of my major gripes with my Prius, was that the car didn't have a compass. It wasn't on the mirror, it wasn't on any screens, and I was like, okay, do I need to know which direction I'm going at all times? Of course not. But is it annoying then that I certainly can't? There's a dog. Hi, dog. Is it annoying that you can't know which direction you're going in? Of course it is. I don't know why it seems to make cars. I mean, my Prius was a 2015, and you definitely need to know which direction you're going. It seemed like such a simple oversight, and I'm not exactly sure where it came from that it wasn't something that they included on the car. But this car has it, and so it's a very minor point, but I love it. It's definitely something that is fabulous. Apparently I need air. That looks a little bit low. Anyways, speaking of air, the fourth thing that I love in this car, of 5, is the responsive handling. Just the steering wheel feel, the weight of this car. Everybody talks about the Alpha chassis that this car is on, along with the Cadillac ATS, and probably some other cars as well that I'm not thinking of, is the ability for this car to turn into a corner, and the steering wheel feel, it feels heavy, it feels weighted, very natural, and it's definitely a kind of car that you can turn in with confidence. Definitely going around on-ramp corners, on track. Everything that I've ever put this car through has been not just responsive, but sublime. It's definitely a car that you can push a little bit and know what you're going to get, and it's very respectful of your wishes as a driver, and it definitely responds in a correct manner. It's honestly kind of spectacular how unbelievable this chassis is that made me fall in love with this car. That's the reason that I'm going to have a Camaro for the rest of my life, honestly, is because this car does things handling wise that I've never experienced in a car before, and I've driven go-karts and other stuff that's extremely capable on track and extremely well handling, and never had anything quite like this before. So this chassis is definitely something special, and I can't imagine in like an SS1LE or a ZL1 even what that feels like, or a V6 1LE for that matter. I cannot imagine how wonderful this car is to drive at 10/10, which I am definitely not capable of at this point, but it's spectacular. I can't believe how spectacular the handling of this car is, and the responsiveness of the steering wheel is great. You'll have to check out, I have a video recorded another rainy day actually, a kind of a highway driving video that I've done with this car that will probably be coming out in the next couple weeks, so you have to keep an eye out for that. Should be spectacular. Definitely something that I hope you all check out, and it's great to drive this car. The final thing, the fifth like or pro of this car, is the sound. And again, if you know what this car is and you say, oh, it's just the V6, Justin, well, it's the V6, but it has one of the better V6 exhausts I've ever heard in my entire life, and we'll stand back here and we'll give it a whirl. It's deep, it's throaty, it's aggressive, it sounds good, and again, if this is what the V6 is, the SS and the ZL1 must sound like absolute tornadoes. It's unbelievable how good this car sounds for, again, just being a V6, and it's not a performance spec, it's not the 1LE. This is what you buy if you're just driving it every day, if you're taking it to work. It's unbelievable how great this car sounds, especially on a cold start. It's a little bit, again, it's warm, I drove it over here, but it's just an unbelievable sounding car. Honestly, that's all I can say about it. It's a fabulous piece of machinery. I am absolutely in love with it. The color is wonderful, the performance is wonderful, and even the kind of things that upset me a little bit that I talked about at the beginning are so minor that there's nothing that would ever make me not love this car and love this platform. Do I wish it was faster? Yes. Unfortunately, I'm not made of money, so that's somewhere down the road. But that's all I got. Make sure you drop a like and a sub down below. I don't want you to miss any of the action from Camaro content, especially that video coming up of the highway drive that I talked about, iRacing, Need for Speed, NASCAR Dirt Daytona, anything else that I may post. It's been wonderful to have you along, to get you to be a part of my car and the thing that I love very much. Hopefully I'll have more recording, driving videos coming out and other stuff. We're getting towards winter, so it's going to be tough to do major recording or anything, but that's kind of the goal. We're going to see how much we can get out here before the snow starts coming in, before I start having to deal with that ground clearance. So I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you all so much for stopping by. Till next time. Bye.